Hey everyone. Looks like we are live on all platforms. I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration, and I am back this evening to answer some questions that y'all may have, give you some updates, what has been going on this past week-ish, week and a half-ish or so with immigration. And then and then we will end the evening. But I wanted to give you guys some updates just so that you're aware. If you are applying for a green card and you're overseas, or if you want to apply for a green card, let's say you haven't applied yet, you now must go to the U.S. consulate in your home country or your country of last residence or your country of legal residence. That is one of the security vetting measures that the current administration has sort of gone back to. This used to really be the policy, like, I don't know, maybe right before his first administration. So that was sort of our standard, and it was an exception to the norm to go process your green card at a different consulate outside of your home country. So we're just kind of going back to that. Also, if you are getting ready to apply for a non-immigrant visa, like an H, an L, an O, those also now need to be processed and applied for in your home country or your country of residence. Third big update is a lot of the folks that were eligible for a waiver of the interview requirement for your non-immigrant application, those have gone goodbye-bye. Again, it's another security vetting measure from the administration. And so again, it's really just going back to what some of the policies were like years and years and years ago. The prior administration used these three tools in order to sort through their backlog. The current administration is dialing all of that back. So I expect to see longer processing times at overseas consulates as a result. If we are making more people actually going for interviews, that means, it means fewer interview spots will be available. And it means that the limited staff in the consulates will be spending their time doing interviews. So that is where we are. So I wanted to just kind of bring that to your attention. If you have already scheduled a green card interview in a country that is not your own, those should be honored. They haven't told us that they wouldn't be honoring those. If you have already applied for a non-immigrant visa interview slot in a country that is not your own, we're told that most of those should still go through, but the language was a little loosey-goosey in the announcement that came out on Saturday. So just keep looking at keep looking at your online account to make sure that your interview is still happening. Because I know some people live and have to travel a fairly significant distance in order to get to the consulates. When I was traveling, I had to hop into a few U.S. consulates, and they were not near city centers. So, I feel for you. They were not near city centers at all. So those are kind of the updates. And if y'all have any questions, I am happy to answer them. We were on last night and had some really, really good questions. So I'm hoping you guys have some good questions tonight. Before we kind of dive into the questions, I want to remind everybody, while I am an immigration attorney, I'm not your immigration attorney, so I cannot give you legal advice on live or on social media at all. If you want legal advice for your very specific situation, you want to get a legal opinion, you want to perhaps start working with me and my team, then you'd need to start with a consult. And so that information is all in the bio. Let's see if we have any questions. Typically I get a lot of questions on processing times. So So the first thing I'll do, even though the question hasn't been asked yet, I know it's going to get asked, is how long does it take? How long does it take, right? You can, for most cases, not all, for most case types, you can hop on the USCIS website, and they have processing times there for you. If you go onto their website, their homepage, everything is in a box. And so there's a box that says manage your case or manage my case. Scroll down to that box, hit the second tab, and then you want to click the form that was filed, the category for the form, and then the office that is processing your case. And then you should get the processing times. The processing times are representative, so we are told, of about 70 to 80% of the same case type that they are, as your case type that is being processed. That said, processing times are fluid, they change. And so some people will be processed ahead of that case processing time. Some will be processed after that case processing time. If you are already beyond the case processing time, you can reach out to CIS. I do that for my clients. Just, hey, what's going on? Like to get an update. And they are pretty good about answering, quite honestly. They're pretty good about answering. Let's see here. One second. What do we got here? Someone is saying last step is literally getting my 45 approved. I don't see what you've put above that though. But yeah, in your green card, if you're in the US, the last step to getting your green card is to get your 45 approved. And sometimes that is the slowest part of the whole process. Hello, Bianca. Bianca should be resting. I'm gonna completely call you out. You should be resting. You should not be on here. You should be chillaxing. But all of y'all that have questions about stuff that I don't handle, Bianca pretty much does handle it. She is one of my immigration attorney peeps. Jennifer, it looks like you've got like several lines. Can you put your question in one line? Your I-130 is approved, your 601 is approved. What is your question? I don't believe you, Bianca. I do not believe that you're resting. I don't believe that. Not one bit. Not at all. Girl, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. What? Hold on, y'all know the slow scroller. What do we have? You have a 693 that's been pending since May. I gotta be honest with you, I don't know what a 693 is, which means that I probably don't handle that case type. Oh, it's your medical exam? That's what I thought. I don't understand what you say when you say that your medical exam has been pending since May. Your medical exam is part of your adjustment application. So it's probably not that your medical exam itself has been pending, it's that your entire 45 has been pending. Yeah, well, I don't know why you would have to do them again, but if you have to do them again and get them back and submit it to the agency before the deadline. Let's see here. Citizenship application, waiting for an appointment. It's been 9 months since I applied in Florida. What's your next step? Your next step is to wait until they give you an interview. Your next step is to absolutely wait. So there is no set time between when you file for your NATs and when you do your biometrics as to when they are then going to give you an interview. What I would suggest that you do, or what you can do, is you can go onto the USCIS website and see what the processing time is for naturalization applications. They break them down by the specific local office. So there's a handful of local offices in Florida. There's Miami, there's Oakland Park, there's West Palm Beach. I think there's one up again in Jacksonville. I think there's some, maybe Sarasota-ish, somewhere on the west coast of Florida, Orlando. So there's a handful of local offices in Florida since the state is so very long and narrow. So I would see what the current processing times are. But yeah, there's no set time. Every office works based on their caseload. But 9 months doesn't necessarily ring any red flags for me, especially here in Florida. Your question is, I sent my medical in May. My question is, why is it taking so long? May, it's September. That's not a long time. Maria J, you're welcome. That's not a long time. I understand that. I said this last night, and I don't think people really liked it, but I'm gonna say it again. A lot goes into processing an application. Doesn't matter if we like what goes into it or not, but a lot goes into processing an application. And so when we are dealing with a government agency, there's a lot of red tape that they have to sort through. Oftentimes people will ask me, well, I filed X, form on Y date. It's now Y date plus 2 days or Y date plus 2 months. Why don't I have a response? Because there's no specific time frame unless you are dealing with an employment-based case that has a premium processing attached to it, where there's a specific processing time that they must abide by. There is no processing time. Sorry. Sometimes I tell people cases are going to take how long they take, right? Now, if a case is beyond processing times, that's a completely different story. Then we have avenues of which we can reach out to USCIS and ask them what's happening. But each officer has a ton of cases on their desk. Officers are human. They take vacation during the summer because they have kids. So cases tend to slow down a little bit in the summer because, just like us, they are taking vacation. Processing times also slow down towards the end of the year because, again, they are human and they want time off for the holidays. So I often say to people, and I often say when I go live, 3 months is a long time in the real world, and I get that, and I'm not the most patient person. I'm truly not. But in USCIS time and processing times, that's like 30 seconds. That is not a long time at all. So I understand that people want things when they want them. Like I do too, right? Like I would love to file something and then a month later, 30 days later, get an approval from my clients. That doesn't always happen. Immigration is a lot of hurry up and wait. And I think what makes it sometimes harder for people is that they are not working with attorneys. And so they don't have someone to ask, is this normal? They're not getting, sort of normal updates. A lot of times I feel like people file their application and they've told me, they're like, I feel like it just goes into a black hole. But I don't actually think May is a long waiting time. I tell my clients to be happy, and I am always happy when they are talking to me. Talking to me means I get a receipt notice, I get a biometric notice. Oddly enough, I get an RFE. I don't like getting RFEs, but that means that someone is processing the case, and that means they have questions. That means they are still talking to me. They stop talking to me when they issue a denial notice, right? So if they have asked for something and you have sent it back in, and this is for everybody that's listening or whatever. If they're still talking to you, be happy about that, right? Because sometimes you go like a year without them saying a word. And that is absolutely within processing times. So for that particular case type, but hang in there, hang in there. Looks like you got a congressional involved with your lawyer. You can do that too. I would bring this question back to your lawyer. But I will caution people when they ask me if we can get congressionals involved and all of that. Congressionals don't tell the Immigration Service to approve an application. That's not what they do. Congressionals make an inquiry into what is happening. They're essentially asking for a status. The congressional does not have the ability to tell the Immigration Service to approve an application, which is why in my practice we use congressionals very, very sparingly, because their role is not to go into the agency and say we want this approved. It is to ask for a status update, essentially. So just keep that in mind as well. But if you're working with an attorney, go back to your attorney if you have more questions. They are really the best person because they know your entire case file. Is USCIS detaining people at the interviews if they have a deportation order? That really is on a case-by-case basis. The short answer is yes, they can detain people at interviews who have outstanding deportation orders, and yes, they have done so. I don't know, like they don't tell us where they're going to be, right? So I don't know. I would say if you are working with an attorney, I would have this conversation with your attorney. They have a much better understanding and feel of what's happening at your local office. Everything's a little squirrely right now, but if you're working with an attorney, ask them ask them what they think about what's happening at your specific local office. They are going to have kind of the best info. And to that extent, I want to say, you guys, so my friend Bianca, who's on here, she's an immigration attorney, and she shouldn't be on here because she should be resting. That's a whole other story. The immigration bar, the immigration lawyers are an incredibly collegial group of professionals. So if I have a client that is having an interview in a local office that I don't go into very often, or, I've got to fly to, I will always call up a colleague in that city and ask what's the latest and greatest. So it is an incredibly collegial group of colleagues that I have, and we all want success for one another as lawyers and for our clients. So ask your attorney if you are concerned about that, and see what they say. They have, I'm sure they also have colleagues all over who can give them some insight. Someone saying that they had an application approved in 18 days. Yes, that happens. And I absolutely love when that happens. But it is not it's not mandated to be 18 days. It doesn't mean that the rest of your application process is going to be that quick. Hello, my K1 fiance visa. My fiance K1 visa was approved on Valentine's Day. I love that. However, my fiance lives in Haiti. I don't actually see what your question is there. So there's, I don't see what your question is there. But congratulations. I think Valentine's Day is a fantastic day to have a K1 visa approved. Like I love that. That is absolutely fantastic. Do I answer questions privately? Yes, you can have, that's called a consultation. You can go to the link in my bio. I'm more than happy to do that. Here we go. Here's the rest of the question. My K1 fiance lives in Haiti with the executive order not permitting Haitian nationals into the country. I think, hold on. Should I give up? Okay, so I think that depends on who you ask, right? I tell my clients this: I can't tell you whether to give up or not, right? That's not something I can tell you. I can tell you what the rule is, And currently the rule is that there is a travel ban and Haiti is part of it. I can tell you that. I don't think these travel bans are going to last forever. They did not last forever the last time. But whether you and your fiance approved on Valentine's Day, I just think that's a sign, but maybe that's just me. Whether you two opt to, stop the whole process altogether, I don't know if that is something that you all want to do, right? I work with clients who have options of moving to third countries, meeting up in third countries so they see one another. It really depends on your individual circumstance, truly. Like that goes more into risk tolerance. That goes more into patience levels. I can't. That's not an answer I can answer for you. Let's see here. Over on YouTube, Tony is asking, thank you for educating us via your platform. You're quite welcome. I think maybe I was supposed to be a teacher in another life, or maybe I was. I don't know. A general question on risk associated with using an advance parole to travel without any criminal record, but pending VAWA and AOS. That is about risk tolerance. I would have to know way more before I can even begin to talk about in any meaningful way you specifically and whether or not I think you should travel. What I'm telling people in general about travel is if you have an outstanding deportation order, if you've had any communication with the immigration court system, if you have a criminal history at any point in your life, inside or outside of the US, I'm advising people to stay clear of an airport. I tend to take an incredibly conservative approach, though. That is sort of what I've been telling people generally. When it comes to my clients, we sit down and we look at their entire immigration history, their entire case to see, and then we kind of look at that coupled with what's happening right now in the world, right? Look what's happening right now. So I can't tell you whether or not I think you should travel. You specifically, that I don't know. I think travel is a teeny bit dicey right now. I do think that. So we'll have to, I'm telling people, there are some people I have pretty much said I don't want you anywhere near an airport. I don't even want you in a car going to pick someone up near the airport, right? So it really depends on what's happening in your very, very individual circumstance when it comes to travel. But travel right now is dicey if you have an outstanding deportation order or you've got a criminal history anywhere in the world. So I would chat with whoever you are working with on your application. Will the case still be active? I think that is, so your K1 with the Haitian national, they're not going to, they shouldn't deny your case. So what's happening with, so there was a recently, and I won't bore you with all the details. There was a recent court case. There was a recent court decision. I want to say it was last 2 weeks-ish. Department, and it was surrounding the diversity visa lottery, but it applies here. Department of State, who oversees all the consulates, essentially stopped processing some of the diversity visa lottery cases because they were processing visas. And so they stopped processing them because of the travel ban. Federal court said, no, unacceptable. And here's why the federal court said that that was unacceptable. The travel ban says that individuals from certain countries under certain circumstances will not be allowed to travel into the US. So that essentially means they cannot get on a plane and then come to Customs and Border Protection, who are the people that those are the officers that we see in the airport. Customs and Border Protection is not able to run those passports and stamp you in. As a practical matter, right? As a very, very practical matter, the airlines are not going to let you on the plane. They are fined. So they're not going to let you on the plane. But if for some reason you manage to get on the plane and get off the plane and go through US immigration, they're going to snag you, take you to secondary, and send you back home, right? What that travel order did not say was that the consulates were not allowed to issue visas. So your case should still remain active at the consulate, and the consulate can, in fact, issue a visa, right? The issue with those folks that are under the travel ban is that they may be issued a visa that they can't use right now. But let's say the travel ban goes away tomorrow. If your visa was issued today, then you can get on a plane as soon as the travel ban is over. So, the travel ban talks about, or is essentially for Customs and Border Protection, the folks at the airport, they're not allowed to admit you into the U.S. That doesn't mean that the State Department cannot process a visa. The other practical issue with this approach is visas are time bound. So these visas that they are possibly processing for people that are subject to the travel ban, these visas are not valid indefinitely. So then you have an issue of, well, now I have a visa, but now, maybe my visa is good for 6 months. We're still under a travel ban in 6 months. Then the issue is going to be, can you go back to the consulate and have them reissue the visa? So we haven't, as a practical matter, gotten to that point yet, because the travel ban isn't like that old. So we'll start dealing with that as it starts to come for us. But whether or not your case will be sort of ended right now or automatically denied because of the travel ban, it should not be. And just because it shouldn't be, according to what this federal judge says, doesn't mean it won't be, but it shouldn't be. Now, State Department may, in fact, continue to process and keep the case active, but they may put it at the bottom of their list of things to do. I could certainly see them doing that. I don't know, but I can see that happening. And to a certain extent, that might actually be what you want them to do. You might want them to simply say, okay, I'm not going to deny this, but I'm not going to process it, because if I process it now, I know it's only good for 6 months, or, it's only good for 3 months, or however long, right? So it may actually be in your favor for them to just kind of put it on the back burner for the moment. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't know that they're going to be processing those anytime soon in terms of the priority, because each consulate is allowed to set their own priority in terms of the types of cases that they process. For instance, consulates that have a very high volume of employment-based cases, employment visas, will sometimes prioritize their employment-based cases first in order to churn and burn and get those done, and then they'll spend time on their family-based cases. Consulates that don't have a lot of employment-based cases and have more family-based cases will churn and burn to get their family cases done first, and then some of the employment-based cases kind of sit a little bit longer. And so that's where the whole patience situation kind of comes in. And sometimes cases are just going to take as long as they take, which I know some people completely disagree with me when I say that, but sometimes they're just going to take as long as they take. I'm not saying it should take you 5 years to get something approved. That's a little bit excessive, but sometimes, we just got to wait. So I hope that's helpful. But at the end of the day, I can't decide for you or tell you, if you should give up or not. The post office keeps sending our USCIS forms back. Is it the post office that's signing in the back, or is it USCIS? If it's the post office, I would look at the address online to see where your forms are supposed to be sent. And I'm not saying that you haven't. I would double check that address. There is a different address for U.S. Postal Service mailings, and there is a different address for FedEx and UPS and like courier type folks. And you may just want to send it via FedEx. My office sends everything via FedEx because we find it a little bit easier to send things during send stuff via a FedEx. Oh, you guys, I'm so excited. So Tanji is on YouTube, and they just came in, and they had, when we first started chatting, they were going to their naturalization interview. And then they came back and said they had their interview. I think your interview was maybe on a Monday, if I remember. But anyway, so they had their interview. And they said, the officer said they were going to get approved, but, we never really know. It's not official until it's official. But we just found out that they're letting me know that they take their oath next week. That is awesome. I'm so excited for you. Wednesday. Oh my God, that's so exciting. Yeah, I love to celebrate a win, even when my office has zero to do with that. Like zero. Like my office has zero to do with this win. But I think it is incredibly, incredibly exciting. And I think it underscores what I keep telling people, which is one, file. If you meet the qualifications, if you meet the criteria, file. Immigration only gets more complicated. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. Immigration only gets more complicated. So file. If you're waiting for it to just like ease down and not be complicated, you'll be waiting forever. So file. And two, applications are getting approved every single day. Applications are getting approved every single day. Do not believe the hype out there that like nothing is getting approved. Like that is craziness. Applications are absolutely getting approved. And Tanji over on YouTube is a perfect example of that. Like Nat's application approved. Officer said it was going to be approved. It takes a little bit of like administrative stuff in the background after the interview, but oath next week. I think from interview to oath, it's been less than a month, like maybe a month, but like, guys, things are getting approved. I'm so incredibly excited. I'm so incredibly excited for you. I think that's amazing, but things are getting approved. So don't think that nothing is getting approved. Applications are absolutely getting approved. And I'm so excited about that. Oh, I love it. All right, you're not giving up. Good. I like it. And you too, if you all have the ability, less than a month. Yay. If you all have the ability, I'm back to the whole K1 and Haiti thing. If y'all have the ability to go to a third country, you can always do that. I get that question often from my clients. They're like, oh, can we meet, in another country that's not, that's not the immigrant's home country and is not the US. Absolutely. I tell people I would love for you to go and take some pictures for me so I can live vicariously. So, you gotta kind of make it do what it do sometimes. You gotta kind of figure out a way. But I do often, I shouldn't say often, I do have clients that are separated where, one is living overseas, one is living here in the States. And for work reasons, for family reasons, for all the various reasons, they don't have the ability to, kind of see one another often. It's hard. And I don't say that lightly. It is hard. But things are getting approved. And listen, some things don't get approved as quickly as I would like. But I will say right now, I've seen some lightning fast approvals, like lightning fast. So while the Immigration Service has, gone back to doing interviews for just about everybody, I'm still seeing approvals. I'm still absolutely seeing approvals. So So keep that in mind. And yeah, I see that Bianca's having a whole conversation in the chat. So the notice that came out on Saturday said that all non-immigrant applicants had to go to their home country or their country of last resident, unless the U.S. does not have an active consular office or consular presence in that country. And so Haiti is one of those countries. And so Haitian nationals um, are slated to go to the Bahamas. So if that is you, or if you are from a country that doesn't have an active U.S. consulate, the U.S. has designated a consular office in a different country for you to go to. What that notice did not say, and which individuals need to check on, is do they need a visa to get into that country that the U.S. has designated them to go to and have conversations with and interviews with the U.S. consulate. That can be a tricky piece of the puzzle for people. So if you need a visa to get into that country, you're sort of doing double the work, right? You've got to get a visa to get into the country, and then you've got to apply for your U.S. visa. So keep that in mind. But that's a lot of the strategy work that when you work with an attorney that we do that you don't have to do. I mean, I will tell you that you're going to need a visa to get into this country or that sort of thing. But that's some of the strategy work that we do for you. Do you need to take family pictures, etc., at your naturalization interview? I don't. My clients don't generally bring pictures, like family pictures, even if they're processing or if they've applied because they've been married to a U.S. citizen for the past 3 years. I've never had an officer really ask for those. But I will say this. Part of the hard part when you go it on your own with dealing with immigration is you're never quite sure what documents to submit. So some people don't submit enough. Some people submit everything and the kitchen sink, right? Which is fine. Like, I would much rather people give me all the documents, right? And then I can figure out what documents I want to submit, what documents I think tell your story the best. But generally speaking, at a citizenship interview, they're really not going to start asking about your home life unless the application is just unless it's just bare bones minimum, right? And then they're going to start asking a whole bunch of questions. They will absolutely, and they should start asking a whole bunch of questions. And so part of it is, generally speaking, my clients do not bring that, but their applications are also such that the officer knows that they've been married for the right amount of time. So it's about the story that you tell in the application. Does the story that your application is telling tell the right story so that the officer doesn't feel that they need to ask a ton of questions? But in general, no, I don't have my clients bring pictures with them to their naturalization interview. And some officers don't really like the pictures, right? Some officers just kind of ignore pictures, even if I'm there on a marriage-based case, they're like, oh yeah, these pictures are nice. So it really depends on the officer that you get at that time. So I hope that's helpful. Let me see here. An immigration officer told a friend of mine laws about Cubans changed and they are not deporting. I have not heard that. I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm just saying I personally have not heard that. So I can offer no sort of even commentary on that. Are updates posted somewhere that the public can read? The short answer to that question is yes. You can always look at the USCIS website. They have a newsroom. And so much of their... Bianca, you should have been at dinner, but I will chat with you later. Thanks for hopping on. So the short answer is yes, you can check the USCIS website. You can check the Department of State website. You can check your specific consulate website. You can check the regulations website, which is, I think, an OPM website, maybe. So yeah, all of it is publicly available. It's just a matter of, depending on what you're looking for, looking in the right place. So yeah, I mean, it's all there. It's definitely all there. It's just sometimes it's hard for people to find because they don't quite know what the right place to look is. And then sometimes when you find the right place, like if you're looking at a regulation, if you have never read a regulation before, they're they they can be a little complicated, right? Like I didn't start reading regulations until I was in law school. I didn't start reading regulations until I was in law school. I didn't start writing regulations until I worked inside USCIS. And so the jump between reading and understanding a regulation and writing a regulation is a pretty significant jump. So, figuring out if you're looking in the right place is sometimes what's hard. And I've had people tell me that they think the USCIS website is very difficult to navigate. I do not, but that's because I use it every day, right? And I've seen it through many, many versions and iterations and changes. But if you're kind of new to that USCIS website, it can be. Clients have told me it's a little complicated and a little dizzying. But yeah, the short answer is it's all out there. It's just whether or not you can figure out where to go to find it and whether or not it makes sense to you when you actually find it. May, you are quite welcome. I-130 approved, I-45 denied due to income, resubmitted in August with joint sponsor, interview 10/6. Is this good or should I be worried? First of all, your timeframes are quite lovely. Number one, there's no reason to be worried about an interview. An interview is a standard part of this process. An interview is a standard part of the family-based immigration process. The last administration had a policy where if the case was seemed to be squeaky clean, again, really good documents. Cannot stress enough, documents are key in any single application, family-based or employment-based. Really good documents, then they were not interviewing people. They were waiving the interview, and clients were getting green cards just mailed to them without an interview. It was great. Those days are pretty much over, right? We're going back to the situation where everybody gets an interview. Everybody getting an interview is normal. That is a normal part of the process. For the almost 30 years I've been practicing, that's the norm, right? So not having an interview was not the norm. It was now not the norm for several years, but that was not the norm at that, so no, I don't think you should be worried about an interview. An interview, I always say, as long as the agency continues to chat with me, and by that I mean a receipt notice, a biometric notice, an RFE, even though I don't like to get RFEs, but an RFE, they're still chatting with me. A notice of intent to deny, I really don't like those when I get them, but they are still chatting with me, right? An interview, they are still chatting with me. As long as there is still communication back and forth between my office and the agency, that is when I am happy. I may not like the subject matter. I may not like what they are saying in the correspondence, but if they are corresponding with me, it means my case is not lost. It means someone is actively working on my case for my client. And those are good things. Those are good things. Like, I'm not one of these that oh my God, an RFE is terrible. We don't want them. Give me an RFE. I get cases approved after we respond to RFEs, right? So as long as they're chatting, it is one more opportunity to have a conversation with an officer. But should you be worried about an interview? No. So good luck with your interview. When's your interview? You said it's 10/6. Come back and let us know how it goes. We just got, I don't know if you were on, but we just got word that someone who did a citizenship case and interview and has their oath next week. So I am super excited for that person today. Hopefully we can all be super excited for you, Amazon Goddess 61, with your interview on the 6th. And again, I like to celebrate wins, even if my office has zero to do with those wins. I think wins should be celebrated. Let's see here. What questions can I expect at my interview from child-based adjustment of status? Child-based adjustment of status. So the questions at an interview are designed to ensure that you meet the criteria. So the questions on a marriage-based case are about your life together. The questions at an interview where, if you are sponsoring a child or if your child is sponsoring you, it's about the relationship that you have with that child. So, you can expect those types of relationship type questions. The civics test for NATS, for a naturalization case, the civics test gives me anxiety. My recall is not the best with ADHD. I don't know if you already have an interview scheduled. I don't know if you've already filed your application. Take the time and review the questions. What I will tell you about the naturalization questions, they're not gonna ask you all of the questions. Like, they're not gonna ask you all of those questions. What for some people gets a little bit tricky. Some officers do this, most don't really, that I've been in rooms with. Some officers will change the wording of the question slightly. It's, the question still has the same flavor. It's, it's very clear what question they're asking. But if it makes you nervous, just take your time, study it, and just be as calm as you possibly can that morning of, and think of it as a conversation. It's a conversation, right? You're not in a courtroom. You are sitting in an office, separated by a desk. It is a conversation. It's an important conversation. Like, I'm not trying to say, oh, it's just, whatever. It's a conversation though. Think of it that way, right? And have your friends, family, whatever, quiz you, right? This is a good question. If someone goes in for an interview, the I-130 is already approved, will they ask relationship questions or just questions about the 45? They can absolutely ask relationship questions. Once they get you in that room, they can absolutely ask relationship questions. Now, depending on how many interviews they're doing that day, they may just focus in on the adjustment of status questions, which are really kind of like background type questions. But I tell my clients, we're going to be prepared for an entire interview, soup to nuts. If they don't want to have all those, if they don't want a super long conversation with you and they want to focus in on one or two things, great. But my clients will absolutely be prepared when they walk into those interviews. 7 a.m. You go ahead with your bad self. Yeah. So interviews are sometimes scheduled. I think the earliest I've seen is like 6:30, I think, or 6:45. Which I know is not ideal, but sort of the earlier they start, the more people they can see. So the more that they can sort through that backlog. Because if they're only doing interviews from 9 to 3 or 9 to 4, that's going to be far fewer people than if they start their interview days at like 6 or 6:30. So 7 a.m. is rough. I'm not gonna lie, but I try to see kind of the good in that, which is they're having a conversation with you. Someone over on YouTube is asking, they're thinking of applying for an I-130. How long does it take? Depends on what category you're in I-130. Depends on what preference category you're in. But what you can do is you can go into the USCIS website and look at the processing times. If you scroll down, everything is in a box on their homepage, and I think it is manage my case or manage your case. Click on that box. Once you get there, you can the first drop down is the form, so you'd click I-130, and then the second is the type of case that you are filing specifically. Click on that, and then the third drop down is the office or the service center, the local office that would be processing the case, and then you click submit, and then that will give you a processing time. But your processing times are always going to depend on the type of case that you're filing and the office that is adjudicating that case. When USCIS approves a 601 waiver for a CIMT that has both inadmissibility and deportability, can DHS try to remove based on the waived CIMT for the deportability portion at a later time without another ground? That is an incredibly specific question. So we'd have to have a consultation and chat offline. That is an incredibly specific question. All right, y'all. I'm probably gonna take like maybe one or two more questions before I head off to have my dinner. We're gonna end with this question. I am Chatty Patty, so I've been told not to talk too much, just yes or no, short answers. So I love it. So I do interview prep for my clients. I also do interview prep for folks who I haven't done their case. They will just come in. We'll do interview prep for them. Specific, and a lot of it is because people feel like they are chatty patties, chatty Cathys, whatever. And so be your real self. Be authentic always. Always tell the truth. But answer only the questions that are asked, right? Answer the questions that are asked. Be honest, be brief, and be clear. Be honest, be brief, and be clear. Let me say that again. For anybody going into an interview, be honest, be brief, and be clear. If the question's not asked, don't answer it. Okay, Amazon goddess, you got it? If the question is not asked, don't answer it, right? And think of it this way. If they haven't asked, they don't want to know, right? Like if they haven't asked, they're not concerned with that. These officers are good. They will ask you the questions that they want answers to. So don't start answering questions that aren't asked, right? Because all you're doing is just prolonging the interview, So we're going to be honest, we're going to be brief, and we're going to be clear. So I'm super excited for you. Amazon goddess, wait, hold on. It's 6:10, it's somewhere in there. So definitely come back or shoot me a message and let me know how it goes. Be honest, be brief, and be clear. Okay. So with that, you all, this has been fun. I am going to log off. I am Carol Williams. I am a former USCIS adjudicator over some policy issues when I worked at headquarters up in DC, and I come to you all live Monday through Thursday evenings around 7-ish. Tomorrow I will not be live. I have something I have to do tomorrow evening, so I can't go live with you. But if you want to work with a firm, if you want to have interview prep with me before your interview, reach out to me. You can always click the link in the bio and you will get to me. And if you want to work with someone who always tries to find sort of a good spin on things, kind of sarcastic, and will make you laugh a little bit. Because listen, this is hard stuff. This is complicated stuff. So if we're not laughing, and then we gotta kind of keep those good vibes going, right? That's how I work. That's how I like to work. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to schedule a consultation with y'all. I'm happy to chat. I'm happy to see what's going on with your case. But I have to go and make dinner and actually prepare and review a case file for a meeting that I have bright and early tomorrow morning. So this has been fun. I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. I work with clients all 50 states and internationally, and would love to work with some of you guys. You guys are fun. So I will chat with y'all later. Have a great night. And I will not be live tomorrow because I have somewhere I need to be, but I will be live again Thursday night around 7-ish Eastern time, like New York time. So have a good night, guys. Bye.